She bragged she could replace me in 24 hours. I walked out, started dating the friend she called Untouchable, and watched as her 24 hours stretched into 24 months of lonely failures while I built a life without her. When people tell you that arguments reveal someone's true character, believe them. For 3 years, I thought I knew everything about my fiancée, Sarah. We met through friends at a mutual barbecue, the kind where everyone's juggling beers and paper plates, and she'd been the loudest laugh in the group. That's what first drew me in, her presence. She made people feel like they belonged. Or at least, that's what I thought. At the start, it felt effortless. She was affectionate, ambitious, and had that spark where she could turn any mundane day into an adventure. We traveled, we built routines, and when I finally proposed, she cried so hard she couldn't even say yes at first, just nodded and held on to me like she was scared I'd disappear. But somewhere between that night and planning the wedding, things began to shift. It wasn't dramatic at first. Little comments, little digs. Why do you always wear those boring shirts? Don't you care about looking good for me? You're too quiet around my friends. They probably think you're boring. I need someone who can keep up with me, not settle. At first, I brushed it off as stress from wedding planning. Everyone says it's a pressure cooker, right? But gradually, those little remarks started to feel less like stress and more like contempt. The night everything snapped was a Thursday. We were arguing about something ridiculously trivial. Who was going to handle RSVP emails for the wedding? I'd worked a long day, I was fried, and I just asked if we could deal with it tomorrow. That's when she threw her glass down on the counter and yelled, "You're so replaceable. I could find someone better in 24 hours if I wanted to." It was like the air got sucked out of the room. I just stared at her, waiting for her to take it back. She didn't. Instead, she smirked like she'd just won some kind of twisted argument. So I said, as calmly as I could, "Prove it." Her face froze for half a second, not with guilt, but with surprise that I wasn't fighting. And before she could spin it into a joke or backpedal, I walked into the bedroom, grabbed a bag, and started packing. She followed me down the hall, her voice cracking between fury and desperation. "You're being ridiculous. You don't mean this. Where are you even going?" I zipped my duffel and looked her dead in the eye. "You said you could replace me in 24 hours. Go ahead. I'll get out of your way." That night, I moved into a short-term rental I'd been eyeing online. And here's the twist no one saw coming. Within a week, I reconnected with her own friend. See, Sarah had this circle of people she always paraded around like trophies. Influencers, models, people she'd brag about being untouchable. Among them was Lena, a model Sarah used to humble brag about. "Oh, she'd never look at someone like you," Sarah once teased, half joking, half serious. What Sarah didn't know was that Lena and I had actually talked before, briefly, harmlessly, and there'd always been this quiet, unspoken spark. The night after I left, Lena DM'd me. Just a simple, "Hey, are you okay?" One coffee turned into dinners, dinners into late-night conversations, and within weeks it was clear Lena wasn't just checking in. She had been in love with me for years, silently watching while I tried to build a future with someone who saw me as disposable. Meanwhile, Sarah's 24 hours dragged into weeks, then months. She hopped on dating apps, posted thirst traps on Instagram, and even staged pictures with random guys to try and make me jealous. But all it did was make her look desperate. People started whispering that she'd blown up her engagement for nothing. By the time Lena and I were quietly building something real, Sarah was still stuck proving her point. Only the point had turned against her. She hadn't replaced me in 24 hours. She hadn't replaced me in 24 months. And she knew it. The first ripple came from our families. Sarah's parents called me within a week of me moving out. Her mom was in tears, her dad in that awkward defensive mode parents get into when they know their kid messed up, but they don't want to admit it. "Can't you two just talk it through?" her mom begged. I kept my tone even. She told me I was replaceable in 24 hours. I'm just giving her what she wanted. There was silence on the other end. A silence that said they knew I was right. Then came the friends. Word spread about why I'd left, and everyone had an opinion. Some said I was overreacting. Others said Sarah had it coming. But the thing that struck me most was how many people quietly admitted they weren't surprised. "She always acted like she could do better." One friend texted me. "Guess she finally got called out." Meanwhile, Sarah threw herself into proving her claim. Dating apps, staged photos with guys in nightclubs, cryptic captions like, Moving on is liberating, the whole performance. At first, I ignored it, but it started bleeding into real life when mutual acquaintances messaged me screenshots. Bro, is she really doing this? She's spiraling, man. You dodged a bullet. The irony? The louder she tried to project freedom, the more obvious it was she was unraveling. And while she was unraveling, I was growing. Lena and I kept things quiet at first. It wasn't about secrecy, more about letting it breathe. Our first date outside of coffee was at this tiny ramen spot she loved. She showed up in jeans and a hoodie, no makeup, and I swear I'd never seen her look more beautiful. She talked, I listened, and for the first time in years, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not as a project to fix, not as a placeholder, but as a person worth choosing. The contrast to Sarah was almost cruel. While she scrambled for validation, Lena gave without expecting anything back. She cooked for me when I worked late. She asked about my day and actually listened. She didn't compare me to anyone else. She just wanted me. Of course, Sarah eventually found out. It happened at a party. One of her so-called untouchable friends saw Lena and me together and, apparently, the gossip traveled faster than wildfire. By the end of the night, Sarah was texting me paragraphs. So you left me to go crawl to Lena? Really? Do you know how pathetic that looks? She's only doing this to get back at me. I didn't reply. The next day, she showed up at my old apartment, the one she thought I'd still be at, only to find the landlord showing it to new tenants. She called me 6 times in a row. Again, I didn't pick up. Because here's the thing. When someone tells you you're replaceable, it's not just words. It's a confession of how they really see you. And once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. Sarah's 24 hours became a running joke among my friends. Every time she posted another sad attempt at looking thriving, someone would send it to the group chat with, "Hour 8760. Still looking." But for me, it wasn't about mocking her. It was about finally seeing my worth. By the time the dust settled, Lena and I had already taken a trip together. Something simple, just a weekend by the coast. But that trip felt like a reset button on my life. We walked the beach, laughed until midnight, and for the first time in a long time, I believed in the idea of partnership again. Meanwhile, Sarah was still searching. And the cruel irony? The more desperate she became, the smaller her pool of options grew. Mutual friends distanced themselves, tired of her drama. Guys she bragged about ghosted her after 2 or 3 dates. And slowly, the same woman who once bragged about being able to replace me in a day was left realizing that she'd burned through years of her life chasing nothing. Lena once asked me if I felt bad for her. I thought about it. Really thought. And all I could say was, she gambled. She lost. And she'll never understand that the real loss wasn't me leaving. It was me never looking back. Update 1. It's been just over 6 months since I carried that duffel bag out of our apartment and told Sarah to prove it. I thought time would dull the edges of that night. But instead it sharpened everything. 6 months gave me clarity. That moment wasn't a rash decision. It was the cleanest, healthiest choice I'd made in years. At first, the aftermath was quiet. Almost too quiet. I half expected Sarah to storm in, break things, or launch some dramatic campaign to win me back. But for the first few weeks, she went silent. Friends later told me she was testing me, assuming I'd crack first. I didn't. Instead, I built a new routine. Woke up early, started going back to the gym, cooked my own meals. I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd lost, physically, emotionally, mentally, in the storm of constant arguments and walking on eggshells. It's amazing how peace feels like luxury once you've lived without it. Then, the quiet cracked. The first attempt came in the form of a letter. A thick envelope, no return address, but I recognized the looping cursive immediately. She'd written 4 pages, front and back, apologizing, reminiscing, bargaining. The first page was full of, "I didn't mean it. I was just stressed." The second tried to spin it as, "You know I could never really replace you. That was just my anger talking." But by the fourth page, the mask slipped. She wrote, "If you think Lena or anyone else can give you the life I could, you're delusional. You'll regret this when you realize no one else can handle you like I can." I folded it once, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it into a drawer. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because it was the perfect reminder of why I'd left. After the letter came the calls. First, once or twice a week. Then daily. Then multiple times a day. Sometimes apologetic, sometimes furious, sometimes nostalgic, as if reliving the good times would erase the bad. One voicemail was her singing our song, off-key, through tears. Another was her yelling, "You'll regret throwing away 4 years over one sentence." But here's the thing, it wasn't one sentence. It was years of contempt, wrapped into one moment of brutal honesty. The climax came when she showed up outside Lena's apartment. Lena texted me nervously, "She's downstairs." I went out, and there Sarah was, pacing the sidewalk in a hoodie, makeup smeared, phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. When she saw me, she ran up, launching into a frantic monologue. "You don't get it, I didn't mean it. We were just stressed. Everyone says things they don't mean under pressure. Don't throw away everything we had for one fight. Please, just talk to me." I let her get it all out. Then I said quietly, "Sarah, you didn't throw away 4 years with one fight. You threw it away every time you treated me like I was less than." The fight just said it out loud. Her face twisted, torn between anger and desperation. She tried to step closer, but I stepped back. I could see Lena's silhouette in the window upstairs. I wasn't about to disrespect her by letting my past bleed into my present. Sarah muttered something about Lena manipulating me and stormed off, but not before screaming, "You'll come crawling back when she gets bored of you." Spoiler, I haven't crawled back. And Lena hasn't gotten bored. Word spread quickly. Mutual friends told me Sarah's 24 hours had turned into months of failed dating app experiments. One friend sent me a screenshot of her Tinder profile, with captions like, "Looking for someone exciting, no boring guys." Another said she was bragging on Instagram about living free, but privately confessing to being miserable. Some people expected me to gloat. But here's the truth. I don't feel triumphant. I don't feel like I won. I feel free. And that's enough. Because while Sarah was spiraling, I was rediscovering myself. Lena and I took a weekend trip to the coast. Nothing extravagant, just ocean air, fish tacos, and long walks where she asked questions about my life no one had ever bothered to ask. She doesn't treat me like a placeholder or a plan B. She treats me like someone she actually chose. Do I pity Sarah? A little. Watching someone drown in their own arrogance is hard, even if they pushed you away first. But pity doesn't mean obligation. And for the first time in years, I don't feel obligated to fix what someone else broke. So yes, Sarah told me I was replaceable in 24 hours. 6 months later, I've never been more irreplaceable in my own life. Final update. It's been almost 2 years since that night Sarah told me I was replaceable. 2 years that, in hindsight, feel like the first chapter of my actual life. I didn't post much about it until now because honestly, I didn't want my existence to be defined by her mistakes. But people keep asking, so here it is, the last update. The last attempt. About a year ago, Sarah tried one final stunt. She showed up at my office lobby. I hadn't seen her in months. She looked different, thinner, exhausted, a shadow of the girl I once knew. She had a folder in her hand. "Please," she said, "just give me 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her sit with me in the cafe across the street. She pulled out the folder. Inside were photos of us, ticket stubs from concerts, little mementos. She slid them across the table like evidence in a trial. "You don't just erase 4 years," she whispered. "I know I hurt you, but we can start again. I've changed." I looked at her for a long moment and finally said, "You're right, you don't erase 4 years. You learn from them." And I did. I pushed the folder back to her, stood up, and left. That was the last time we spoke in person. Her 24 hours. From mutual friends, I heard she kept trying to prove her 24-hour claim. Dating apps, rebounds, luxury life, flings. None lasted. Apparently, she even got engaged quickly, only for it to implode when her fiancé discovered the pattern. She called me twice after that engagement ended. I never picked up. Eventually, she stopped calling. It wasn't anger anymore. It was apathy. And apathy is the true death of love. My life now. As for me, life is good. Better than I ever expected. Lena and I are still together. It's nothing like what I had with Sarah, and that's exactly the point. With Sarah, I always felt like I was trying to earn her approval, like every day was an audition I could fail. With Lena, there's no performance. She loves me in the quiet moments, not just the highlight reels. We've traveled, built routines, fought sometimes, sure, but with respect, not contempt. I even found myself smiling the other night when she teased me about my terrible coffee-making skills. That kind of softness was missing before. Family and friends. At first, some people thought I was too harsh with Sarah, that maybe I should have given her another chance. But time has a way of revealing the truth. The same friends who once doubted me now tell me they admire how I walked away. A few even admitted they envied the strength it took. My parents? They love Lena. My mom told me quietly one evening, "You seem lighter, like you're finally yourself again." She's right. The lesson? Sarah once believed I'd regret letting her go. But here's the reality. Regret never came. Relief did. Growth did. Peace did. I don't hate her. I don't wish her ill. But I also don't wish her back. If anything, I hope she figures herself out, truly, without dragging someone else into the fire. But for me, that chapter is done. The book is closed. So, when people ask me now if I think Sarah ever replaced me in her 24 hours, I just laugh. Because the truth is, she never replaced me. And me? I stopped needing to be replaced the moment I learned I was enough on my own.